Hello everybody. Welcome to the 15th unit of this wonderful course that we are doing together. The topic for this unit is influencing and being influenced by the environment. But before we proceed further, let's have a quick recap of what we discussed in the last unit. As you remember, we discussed about how we can channelize the intellectual and spiritual energies that are appearing in the world. They're increasing. And as the frustration in the world increases, these energies are also increasing. So we have access to fresh waves of intellectual and spiritual energies. We also discussed the role that the youth can play in the advancement of society. You remember we discussed that youth can move the world. Youth have their own special characteristics, qualities that is not there in other people. They can bear difficulties, they have enthusiasm, they are ready for arduous and difficult tasks. So they are to be in the forefront of changing the world. We also discussed about what is human prosperity in its full sense. Meaning, it is not just about economic prosperity. It's much more than that. The overall well-being of humanity, which is economic, it is environmental, it is spiritual, it is moral, it is intellectual. All together, then we can say that really we are prosperous. Otherwise, little more economic, resources is not true prosperity. We also discussed about how far the present education, which we are receiving in our institutions, can help us to reach the high destiny of mankind that we discussed before. So, let's now reflect on two questions as a preparation for the new session that we are just starting. The first question is, we have several allegiances, faithfulness, relationships, commitments to families, to community, and to society. Can these allegiances influence us negatively? Secondly, what is consumer society? And what are its characteristics, which are a very prominent feature of today's world? UNESCO published a report called Learning the Treasure Within. It's a very old report of 1998. It says, there is obviously no way of understanding the world without understanding the relationship between human beings and their environment. Such an apt statement. The question is how we should develop a comprehensive view of the ties that bind men and women to their environment, which involves both natural environment and social environment. The document continues by saying, worldwide solidarity also means overriding the inward-looking tendency to focus on one's own identity in favor of an understanding of others based on respect for diversity. It says, education should therefore seek to make individuals aware of their roots. Maybe we have never thought about this aspect, what education should do to us, to make us aware of our roots. How have we landed here today? Who have been our ancestors, for example? What great services they have done, for example? What is the legacy that they have left for us? What have we inherited from them? So, make the youth aware of their roots as to give them points of reference that enable them to determine their place in the world. But it should also teach them respect for other cultures. I know that in some of the activities that many of our NSS volunteers did in one of the very well-known universities, the activity they undertook was to help the villagers to write the history of their village. That is so important because society, community is made through a lot of sacrifices by those who have gone before. It's made with a lot of good initiatives by those who have gone before. And there is no record of that. So for sure, when we know that, for example, our great-grandfather has done this for the community, of course we get inspired. That think, what am I going to leave behind? Now, on the other hand, highlighting differences and extolling a sense of superiority will bolster an environment that is not conducive to peace and unity. Although we say that, all right, we should know what our ancestors have done, where we stand today in relation to them, it should not increase a sort of superiority sense in us. You know, it says insistence on the truth obliges one to admit that human groups, peoples, nations, and countries are not all alike. So, appreciating diversity, appreciating beauty in other cultures, this should be there. This simple fact forces us to look beyond our immediate experience, to accept and recognize people's differences and discover that other people also have a history that is rich and instructive. It is not only us who have a very rich past, but others equally. They have very wonderful history. Knowledge of other cultures leads them to an awareness of the uniqueness of one's own culture, but also an awareness of a heritage common to all humanity. This is really so important that we not only know our own culture, but we also know other cultures. Although we appreciate the beautiful points that may be there in our culture, but we also realize that there is a lot which is common to the whole humanity. And I think that's what really binds us together. And I really want to say that especially in those institutions, colleges, universities, where we have the privilege of having students from various backgrounds, say from different parts of the country, from different parts of the world, this should be giving us a great opportunity to work on this which UNESCO has said, to learn about other cultures in a very systematic, good way, to share our cultures with each other, so that ultimately we are able to see what is common among us. And that is the commonalities that bind us together as one people living on a small earth together. An important aspect of our life is our social relations and allegiances, commitments to various groups, as we said at the beginning of this session. Individuals are defined in relation to other people. It's obvious, both individually and collectively, and to the various groups to which they owe allegiances in a constantly shifting patterns as these keep changing. So the realization that there are many such allegiances that all of us are committed to, over and above such relatively restricted groups as the family or the local community or even the national community, society, informs the search for common values that can serve as the foundation for the intellectual and moral solidarity of mankind. Meaning that although we have allegiances to all these institutions of family, of local community or the national community, We need to search for the common values that become a foundation that binds us together, the whole mankind together, as our intellectual foundation and as a moral binding of all of us together. So we need to go beyond the allegiances, small allegiances, in the interest of global unity. Let's consider now the allegiances that we have and then discuss with your learning partner and explain some such commitments that you have in your daily life. Your allegiances to the family, first one. Your commitment or allegiance to the local community, second one. Your allegiance to the society or to the nation, what are your commitments? And fourthly, other allegiances that you may have, maybe to your work, maybe to your sports club, maybe to your spiritual group, whatever other allegiances that you like to mention, your ethnicity or whatever. So you take 4 minutes time for consultation and then we'll continue.